Okay, so welcome to the webinar today. So we're talking, of course, about how to keep your children safe and balanced and healthy online. There's a lot to cover, so I'm going to get straight into it. If you see, just to explain what these things are, so my name is Deering, of course. Children Technology is the business I have, and Peaceful Digital Parenting is the brand. Doesn't really matter, just so that you recognise those things as we go through. Okay, so why can I not? Sometimes I should hit the arrow and it should go to the next screen, and sometimes it doesn't do that. Here we go. Okay, so today's promise. So I'm going to show you a way to guide your children safely through technology with confidence and alleviate your fears about what they're getting up to online. So when we talk about this sort of stuff online, it's about alleviating fears as opposed to eliminating them, because same as the offline world, physical world, there's certain measures you can take, obviously, to keep your children safer than they might otherwise be, as in, you hold your hand across the road and you stop them from doing silly things where they're going to get hurt when you can. But kids still get hurt, things still happen. And so online is a similar thing. So this is not about, there's no sort of promise to say that no online predator, creep is ever going to try and get in touch with your child online, or, nothing bad is ever going to happen. But what it's about is giving our kids the tools that they need and resources so that they can handle what happens, so that it doesn't have a major or detrimental effect on them. So that's to put it all in perspective. That's the goal. So transformations, what we're trying to do is we're trying to take you from having that fear that your kids will get in trouble online, because they can do so very, very easily and in lots of different ways, to having peace of mind that they can guide themselves safely. And I say they can guide themselves safely, as in you're not pushing them all the time. They're actually safe themselves. Yeah. It's about going from feeling overwhelmed, because most of us, I reckon, are overwhelmed with technology, to feeling in control. And that just comes from knowledge and from taking the mystery out of it, I guess, and understanding a little bit better. And losing children to technology, as in when sort of a barrier goes up because all your kids want to do is play online on all the time. From losing that connection over them to gaining a much stronger personal connection. So they're kind of like the key transformations that we're working on for this. So today we're going to talk about where to find information that you need, why you need to learn it now and not wait, impact of communication and why that's so important. I'm going to go through 7 key problems as I see them that we deal with, and 3 common mistakes that most parents make so that you don't make them. I'm also going to go through a key tip to deal with each of those 7 problems, and opportunity for help. So today this is going to go for just over an hour or so. Just over an hour. And I can't, for me to give you all the information that you need, I think, to keep your kids safe would be here for like the next 10 hours. So the best way to do this is to give you as much as I can today, and then tell you how you can find more, and then you can take whatever action you want after that. So, okay, so a little bit about me. So I need to just sort of explain my background and why, I guess, explain my credibility or why it might be worth listening to what I have to say. So my background, I got into this. So I'm kind of busy like most mums, like every mum that I've ever met. So my lifestyle is, a work, paid work, not enough paid, but paid work and unpaid work. And I have a husband that I try and see sometimes. I like to stay fit and healthy, manage the home, kids around, and do the whole sort of like super mum thing. So life is pretty. Have 2 boys who are will be turning 6 soon, one of them, and 9. And we have really good, open, honest relationships. I'm really proud of the relationships that I have with my kids. Very, very open. A little bit too open probably with one of them. We had a night at the school where they talked about how babies are made, and since then I've had a very open relationship, very open conversations about that, but that's a good thing. So the boys, my boys are happy, they're healthy, and they're well balanced, well adjusted, so that's a pretty cool thing. And they do play games online, so I try to minimise the time they spend online, but I certainly don't stop them from doing it. I don't think you can stop them from being online anyway, and it's not what we're trying to do. But they are in a position where they can use their technology safely and appropriately, so it's in balance. That's what we're trying to get to. That's the whole aim. But it wasn't always like this. I'm going to explain where I came from. So this is not my son. This is an image that I use because I don't want to put my son up there just to protect him for a little bit of privacy. But this is kind of like what my son looked like for a while. This all started, my son was in year 1, went to a new school, and he was in year 1 at that school, and he had a best friend there. And in no time at all, his friend introduced him to the game of Pokemon, which wasn't Pokemon Go. This was years before Pokemon Go. Just introduced him to Pokemon, and my son became completely obsessed with it in a very short space of time. So when I say he was obsessed, it was all he wanted to think about. It was all he wanted to do was either watch Pokemon on TV or read. Well, reading books isn't such a bad thing, but read books or play it on a DS or play it on an iPad and think about it and talk about it and play it in his mind. So even if he didn't have a device to play Pokemon on, it was still running through his head all the time, or it was all that he was talking about, and it just completely took over his mind. And really, really quickly, in a really short space of time. So while this happened, of course, as I said, I was kind of busy doing my own thing, and I was constantly being ignored by him. And it was hard to tell whether he could hear what I was saying and wasn't listening, or whether he just couldn't hear at all. But either way, the effect was that, I would say things to him and I just wouldn't get a response, and it would just go on and get worse and worse. And so I don't know about you, but like most mums, I think I don't particularly like being ignored. So this didn't really go down too well. And so I became really angry at the time, and I was always dictating to him because it wasn't worth. It was too hard to get into conversations that I wanted to have with him because he wasn't listening. It was just too hard to say something again and again and again. So the only things that I did say was basically telling him what to do. So our conversation sort of deteriorated to something like, have you done your homework? I told you to do your homework. Why haven't you done your homework? Da, da, da. Like it was just, brush your teeth. Why haven't you brushed your teeth? I told you to brush your teeth. Like we didn't have the communication that you want to have with your kids, because I was just, basically telling him what to do all the time. And I didn't like how I sounded. I didn't like this person that I was becoming. My son was out of control. When it was time to turn off the games, he didn't want to turn them off, and he would get a little bit crazy. He would start shaking. He would get angry, and he would be violent at times, completely out of control. It was very, very difficult to get him off the games. And at this point, I think a lot of people sort of thinking, well, why don't you just take the games off him, just stop him doing it? And the point was that he didn't have to be playing them anymore because they were still in his head. He still had this thing going in his head, and he was scared that, Pokemons were going to come flying out of cupboards and, things were going to happen because this thing had just taken over his mind. It was out of control. I'm just going to mute. Let me just see if I can. No, I can't do it. Oh, that's right. Okay, sorry, let me just close that. Okay, so everyone was being ignored, not just me was being ignored. So what was happening was, like, we'd go to a grandparent's place, or my parents' place, his grandparents' place, and my son would ignore his grandparents because, again, he just wasn't listening or was just ignoring them. If he'd go to school, his friend, people would say hello to him and he would ignore them too. And the reason he was ignoring them was not because he was trying to be rude. It was because he either didn't hear them, he was just so in his own world, in this Pokemon thing going on in his head, that he was just ignoring everyone. And that started to affect his social circle. He had less and less friends because the only people he was friends with were the others who were also obsessed with it at the time. That was a real concern for me. Sorry, doing that again. So I was feeling inadequate. And as a mum, one of the things I've always taken pride in is that I feel like I'm a fairly capable mum. And I love my kids to bits. I do everything for them like every other mum, or most other mums that I know. But this was one case where I'd gone from feeling like I was doing okay as far as motherhood goes, to starting to feel like I was just at a loss. I felt like I just didn't know what to do. I was completely overwhelmed by this thing, and it just came flying at me. And it all started too, like when he was at school, when I wasn't there and I couldn't do anything about it. And I was just completely overwhelmed. I was really just at a loss. I did not know what to do. And we got to a point where I was doing a walk to school. I'm very lucky I get to walk my kids to school. So I was walking my son to school one day, and in the morning for whatever reason, I just thought I really want to have a good conversation with my son on the walk to school. It seemed like a fairly should be an easy enough thing to do. So I tried to get through to my son as we were walking to school, and he was just ignoring me, and I tried again and he ignored me, and I tried again and he ignored me, and this went on for a little while until we got to a point where I pretty much completely lost control. And in the middle of the road, I just started absolutely yelling and screaming at the top of my lungs at my son, because I just got to that point where I just completely lost it. And I'm not even sure what he did at the time. But after I had my little fit of screaming, I did what most people do, I guess, when we get to that point, and I just burst into tears. So this is all happening in the middle of the road on the way to school. Probably got a few looks from people, but at that point, I didn't even care. I was, I think, out of control at that point. So I realised after my little fit that I was angry, I was upset, but more so I was scared, and I was afraid because I didn't know what to do. And I like, my son at this point was only 6 years old. And that's too young. I thought, I'm not going to lose my son. I'm not going to have this relationship with my son at 6 years old. This is not the way it's going to be. And I was really scared because I had no idea what to do. So I think that was a point where, as human beings, I think sometimes we have to really hit rock bottom before we take action and wake up and actually change the situation. And that was, for me, that was my rock bottom on that day. So at around about that time, I realised that I had to stop this. I had to do something. I had to stop complaining to everybody, because no one likes people who whinge, and it really wasn't helping anyway. And I realised that, if nothing changes, nothing changes. And my son wasn't going to magically change his behaviour, so if something's going to change, then I would have to, was responsible for making that happen. So it was all about me, and I changed the way I was looking at the whole situation. And I didn't want to waste any more time too. Like, my kids grow up so fast, right? So I didn't want to lose any more time with him. So what I had, and I described this is like my paradigm shift. So paradigm shift, you probably know, is where you have the same situation, but you look at it differently. And what I had been doing was just being really angry. I'd been really angry with my son for ignoring me and for being so obsessed with this thing. I was angry with his friend who introduced him to the game, which probably wasn't really his fault. I was angry with the producers of Pokemon because they don't make these games. It's not accidental that our kids become obsessed with them. That is an intentional thing. So I was angry with the creators of Pokemon. I'm sure they cared a whole lot about that. But I was just really angry, and it was like an us and them thing. It was me against my son, is how I'd been looking at it. And so then I realised that rather than being angry, what I needed to do was help my son. So it's kind of like we had this wall. I built up this wall, a barrier between myself and my son. And rather than me versus him, me on one side, him on the other, I had to come around the wall and work with him and help him, because he had a problem that he needed some help with. And so that was a huge thing. That was sort of the first step, I think, to changing, to getting through this. And I was pretty determined that I wasn't going to keep going this way, and I was just going to fix it. So I got a little bit excited at this point. I actually got some professional help for my son at that point. I looked up books, tried to find some books on the topic, and there weren't many at all at that point in time, because this is all a little bit new still. I have actually written a book since then, but that book wasn't there. I did what we all do, and I tried to find information online. So when you Google stuff online, of course, you find a lot of stuff. And some of it is good, and some of it is not good. A lot of it's repetitive, a lot of it's a waste of time. But there's some good stuff there. So through all of that, I wasted hours and hours, invested maybe hours and hours. And I found some good stuff that made sense to me in my situation. Every child is different, of course. So what works for one child may not work for another. So it was just about looking at all the different strategies and all the techniques and all sorts of ideas and things that I could do, and implementing what I thought was going to work with my son. I took an interest in the game of Pokemon, and that's really important. I'll talk about that a little bit more later. I meditated. I asked myself, maybe I had the answers within. I was a bit desperate at this point. And through all of this, I learned a better way to communicate with my son, and that was hugely important, because communication is everything. When it comes to keeping your kids safe and getting through to them, communication is everything, and effective communication. It's really, really important. So as a result of that, things improved, and they actually improved quite quickly. So my son spent less time playing online, which was fantastic. And it wasn't because I was telling him not to, it's just because he just naturally didn't want to be online as much. When it was time to get him off those games, it actually became quite easy to get him off it. And amazingly, we went from this crazy anger when it was time to turn off now. Okay, and not a problem at all. Massive turnaround. I was less overwhelmed because I'd sort of gained control of the situation, so I was feeling a lot happier. And everything, we sort of went from that downward spiral we got into an upward spiral, and we reconnected on a whole new level. And I think that our relationship since then is better than it was before all this happened. So that was kind of cool. Today, so we spend a lot of time outside, messing around, playing games together. We have a really strong emotional bond. And I have that with both of my sons, and that's really, really important to every mum, I reckon. Certainly to me. They play their games. As I said, I don't stop them from playing online at times, but they play them in moderation. It's not to the point where it has a negative impact on their lives. And in fact, I think it has a positive impact on the stuff that they play. So my son has much better social skills. He has a much wider social circle, and that's a really, really important thing. In school, he has more friends because he can talk to them better. He relates to other kids a lot better than he was. And the thing I call my huge win, the way that I realised that we completely sort of conquered this and got over it, is my son had a birthday, and he had some money to spend, and his intention was to go into an EB game shop and buy a Pokemon game, and I had allowed him to get that game. And so we walked into the shop, and the game was available, and he looked at it, and then he thought twice, and he just walked out of that shop with his money and decided against it. So that was a massive thing, because rewind the clock 3 months or definitely 6 months before that, and there's absolutely no way he would have walked out without that game. So I think that's this is the experience that I went through, and it's cool that I can share, and I do share a lot more about how we actually got through that, which is really valuable. So I figure that I think that there's everything happens for a reason. I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. And there's always a good in a situation. And particularly when a situation seems to be really bad, I think there's an equal something that's really good out of it. And when you're looking for it, you can find it. So through all of this, I found that a lot of good came of it. So I went through this thought process, well, why did we go through so much pain? And I think the reason that we went through it was because there was an opportunity there. I discovered ways to get through it. And I realised that I'm not the only one going through it, and of course it's very common. We're not particularly special in this scenario that we had. So if I could find ways to get through it, then maybe I could share what I did in detail with other people, and I could help them. If they're going through the same thing, then I can help them avoid the pain, or at least minimise the pain, or get out of it a lot quicker, not go through quite the experience that I had. So I think that's a huge reason that it all happened. But moving on from that, it occurred to me that internet addiction is a big problem online, but there are other problems, of course, too. So what if I could spend my time, if I could invest my time, and I could find out about, from the experts that are online, if I could find out about social media and how to be safe, how kids can be safe on social media, and if I can find out how kids can avoid being affected by online predators, and how we can, effective ways to block content, inappropriate content that we don't want our kids to see. And if I could get all the information that I wanted to find online from the experts in each field, and collate that information, and then I spend all the time getting all the information, and then I could present that to other parents in the least time possible, so that parents who are like me, who are overwhelmed and busy, who just don't have time to do this stuff, can get the information that they need in the shortest possible time. They don't have to sort through the stuff that they don't need, and I can just go, you know what, this is all you need to know, and this is going to keep the kids safe. So I'm kind of excited about that idea, because I think that that's a way to really give it back, I guess, give a lot of value to a lot of parents. So, and this all started through that experience that I had. So I think there was a reason that I went through it. And I'm quite excited because it's given me a way to really help, to really make a difference, and to really help you and to help other parents in a huge way with something that is a really big problem that's difficult to deal with. So there's my upside. I reckon it's a pretty big upside, proportionate to the downside. So why I'm doing this, and why I'm so passionate about this, and why I invest all my time, a lot of my time on this, is because I see internet addiction tearing families apart. I saw what it did to my family, and I see it in so many families, and it's so, so common. And it's not just tearing parents and kids apart, it's also siblings. I've spoken to people that they barely talk to their brother or their sister because, one of them is locked in their room, hours and hours every day and won't open the door and, won't get out of their pajamas because they're online all the time. I see millions of innocent lives being ruined by online activities. And I read these stories of kids who, have been bullied to an extent where they see no other way out, and then their parent walks into their room one day and finds them hanging from the closet. Well, these stories that are just horrendous and that don't need to happen and that need to stop happening. And they're all happening. It all starts as a result of stuff that happens online. So things like hacking, people are internet fraud, they're losing their identities, being online, they're being made bankrupt within hours. Online predators, social media mistakes, innocent mistakes that kids make, or that they are just mistakes that are having a massive effect on their lives. Then when they do it, and also for years in future. Things like porn, kids being involved with cyberbullying, sexting, all of this stuff is starting to lead to anxiety at its highest levels ever in history with kids. And there's a path that gets followed. It starts with anxiety, and then that kind of gets into depression if it's not fixed. And then depression leads to drugs, can also lead to alcohol, and then worst case suicide. So the whole thing is to stop this process at the start. So if it gets to the anxiety stage, that's when it needs to stop, so that we stop kids going through that path. And the reason, the ultimate why, is that I honestly believe, and I know that it can all be avoided. All of these mistakes that kids make can be avoided. And it's through education and it's through parenting. A lot of it is on us. When I read so many articles all the time where they say, it's up to parents to do something, but it doesn't tell parents what. What is it? Like, what are we supposed to do? And so that's what I'm really passionate about helping parents with, is telling you that this is what we need to do so that we can avoid all this stuff happening. So that's where I'm coming from. So hopefully that makes sense. So the 7 big problems as I see it, major problems that we're facing, or that kids are facing being online, that we need to help them with. And so this is the first one. Now, kids have always been really nasty to each other, and there's nothing new about that. Kids can always be mean. But what's changed now than when they were mean back in the olden days when we were young, is that they have different means of being mean and nasty. And people are, of course, so much crueler to each other online behind a screen than they generally are to people's faces. And so it's just taken on a whole new level. The other thing is it's very hard to get away from it when it's online. If it's at school, kids are being mean, you can just go home and be safe in your own home. But a lot of kids are now not really safe at their own home. So all of this stuff is pretty common and horrible, and what our kids are having to deal with. So, of course, that is cyberbullying. 50 to 80% of school children are involved in cyberbullying, and the nature of bullying is that it is a regular thing. So they're not all being bullied. When you look at the figure up to 80%, that's kids involved. That means they're either they may be being bullied, they may be the bully, or they may be a bystander who's affected a lot as well by bullying. 3 Aussie kids, tweens and teens, commit suicide each week. In the States, it's 4,500 a year, kids committing suicide. It's insane. I mean, one child a year is too much. 3 a week is way too much. And we're heading down, of course, we follow the Americans, don't we? So we're heading down that path that just needs to stop. A large part of the problem is that the vast majority of victims don't tell their parents. So if a child's being bullied online, they won't tell you. A lot of them, most of them won't tell you, and there's different reasons for that. And that's why it gets so bad. If you know about it, then at least you can nip it in the bud, or you can hopefully take some action to do something about it. It's very hard to stop it when you don't know about it. So the key tip for cyberbullying, this is the thing that scares most parents the most, is that the initial way that you react to cyberbullying, or when your kids get in trouble online, whether they get in trouble from cyberbullying or bullying or something else, the initial reaction is really, really important that you have. And unfortunately, for most people, their initial reaction is probably not the most appropriate one. So the reaction that you have is going to have a major impact for years to come. If it's a good one, then your kids are much more likely to tell you stuff that's going on. And if it's not, then they're far less likely to tell you stuff that's going on. And a lot of parents, their reaction is either too hot, they either overreact or they underreact. So an overreaction is, kids are being bullied online, and an overreaction might be, well, what were you doing on that side? I told you not to be there, and I'm going to kill that person, I'm going to go to their parents, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and that sort of reaction isn't generally helpful. The other reaction is underreacting, which is like honey, don't be silly, they don't need it, or they're only words, sticks and stones will break my bones, words don't hurt, all this sort of stuff. So neither of those reactions are helpful, and unfortunately they are most common reactions. But we talk about how to a better way to react, to respond, as opposed to react to cyberbullying that can help you. Social media is a huge problem, of course, that can lead to to bullying and to other things. More than half kids aged 10 are using social media, and this is a real problem because at the age of 10, you don't have the mental capacity to safely use social media. But a lot of kids are doing it. The problem too is that a lot of kids at that age are asking their parents to be online, and a lot of parents are saying, no, you're too young, and they are right. They're right, the kids are too young. But the thing is that if the kids want to be on there, they're going to do it anyway. They're going to do it behind your back. And when they do it, when you said they're not allowed to do it, then they can't come to you for help because they're going to get in trouble. They think they're going to get in trouble because you've told them not to be there. And then they're in real trouble because then you can't guide them and keep them safe at all, and they're kind of on their own. It's a huge part of the problem. One in 5 children override social media settings. It's very, very easy for kids to do. They're very savvy, very young. It's not difficult. 7.5 million Facebook users are underage, and this is an old stat. And Facebook itself is kind of old for kids because some kids are still there, but more kids are not. And the reason they're not there is because you are there. So kids are on, they're on Kik Messenger, could be on WhatsApp, they're on Instagram, or they're on Snapchat. There are lots of other platforms, and they're often trying to be places where you're not. But it doesn't matter what platform you're on. In any of those platforms, there's millions of people. There's always a lot of kids that are underage, and they can do that because it's really easy. They just lie about their age. It's not hard to do. Over 40% of kids aged 12 and up message strangers online, and they do it even though they've been told not to. Most kids are told, most parents, we tell our kids don't talk to strangers online, but most of them are doing it anyway. This is a problem. So my key tip with social media is, the starting point is to be friends. Be friends with your children online. Now, your kids may not want you to be friends with them, or they may not want you following them, and that doesn't mean you start liking and commenting on all their posts. But you want to be friends with them, and that alone may actually help avoid predators. Because if predators see that you're online or you're friends with their kids and that their child is not alone online, that alone can help a lot in deterring predators from luring your children or doing things that they want to do with them. It's all about being friends, but doing it in a way that's actually going to be effective. It's going to work. Often what happens is that parents become friends with their kids on social media, and so their kids then open second accounts in whatever, say if it is Facebook. They'll let you be friends with them on a Facebook account, and then they'll open another Facebook account that you won't know about it, and that's where they'll be doing. They'll be interacting. The third thing is privacy. So kids are perceived by hackers and nasty people like that to be the weakest link in your family. They may or may not be, but they're perceived to be. And so because of that, there's a lot of links, there's a lot of dodgy things that are put in games that will encourage your kids to link on things that are going to cause problems. They're going to open up your computer to hackers, nasty people. Thousands, and this is another oldish stat, probably more than this now, but around 77,000 gaming accounts are hacked each month. So that means that when your kids go, if they have a username and password to a game, like a site, and through that they can play games, a lot of those accounts are hacked. A lot of them are hacked, and that means that the person can then gain access to whatever information is in that device. So often that's banking information, that or private stuff. Identity theft and fraud are rampant. It's just too easy for these people to get in, and that's a major problem. So one of the tip with privacy is make sure your children share their usernames and passwords with you and no one else. Now, kids tend to blab. They don't get privacy. I know my kids are pretty open and honest, and a lot of kids that just have no problem blabbing stuff. So the problem is they may be happy to share their username and password with you, but they're happy to share it with everybody else as well. And so the idea is we need to get it into their heads that this is private information that nobody needs to know other than you. You do need to know it, but nobody else needs to know, not even their best friend, because someone who's a best friend one day in your child's world may be their worst enemy the next. Next problem is keeping them safe. So we want to do what it takes. We want to keep our kids safe, of course, from online predators. We know that they're there, but we don't know how to do it. And it's scary that something bad is going to happen. So that's a fear that you have, and that's totally normal and understandable. And the tip there is that we need to actually understand how predators operate. They're very, very clever. And the more you understand about how they work, the more you're in a position to actually combat that and make it so they don't work. They don't have an effect on your kids. So again, predators might try and contact your kids, but that doesn't mean that they can then lure them and continue to talk with them. So we've got to have a better understanding of what actually happens so that we can do something about it. And we spend hours actually. There's in the training that I offer, we spend a whole hour talking about predators. It's a lovely subject, but it's really important. It's really valuable information that I think kids can be predator proofed, so that predators have no impact on your kids. I reckon that's pretty important. Peer pressure is huge. Again, peer pressure is again something that is not new. Of course, been around forever, will be around forever. There's peer pressure of the kids wanting to use social media, or I want to play this game, and I want to use the latest and greatest devices to do it. So if that kind of annoys you, if you've got your kids, always on at you to do stuff that you don't particularly want them to do online, then that's pretty normal as well. Join the club, but it's difficult to deal with. So I know I had, my son. All my friends play Minecraft. Why can't I? But I stopped my son when years ago he wanted to play Minecraft, and I said no to him because I know that it's addictive. Not that I had a problem with Minecraft so much in itself, but I just knew that it was addictive. And so because I said no to that, he then opened up to Pokemon. But there you go. Now he does play Minecraft in moderation. And the latest devices, they're expensive, aren't they? And honestly, my friends have this, all my friends have that. Why can't I have it? So we talk about how to deal with that as well. And the key tip with that is to join a community of parents with children similar age, generally to yours, and see what's actually going on. Because kids will say, all my friends do this, or everybody's doing that. But you kind of need to know, well, are they or not? Kids are going to say that. They're going to obviously try and pull wool over your eyes, but is that really happening or is it not? And even if other people are doing something, that doesn't mean that you should do it anyway. It's about making use of resources that are out there. There are some really cool resources out there, and assessing what games and devices are suitable for kids. So one of the sites is a site, I don't know if that shows up very well here, but it's commonsensemedia.org. It's a really cool site. There's other useful sites as well. It's a really good one to help you decide if a game is appropriate for your kids or not. So when they're on at you to play something and you go, I don't know what the game's all about, I'm not sure about this, you can find out, well, you can read a review on it, and then you can make an educated decision whether you want your kids there or not. Because there are some awesome games out there. We don't want to, again, stop our kids doing everything online. And you can't stop them anyway. Overwhelm, I think, is a big problem. Technology obviously is changing so fast, and it is difficult to keep up. And our kids are smarter than us. Here's the problem. Our kids are so tech savvy, and they're so tech savvy from such a young age. And it's very difficult. We think that we're not as smart, that we're not as tech savvy, and we're probably not as tech savvy as our kids, depending on how old your kids are. They overtake us from a fairly early age as far as tech savviness goes. And that is a little bit scary too. So part of the reason that perhaps we're a little bit overwhelmed is the sort of stuff that's happening online and how fast things happen. And these, again, are stats that, oh my gosh, over 3 years old now. masses, over 500 new websites created every minute. So over 1,000 websites created every 2 minutes online. Masses of stuff happening on Twitter. The YouTube one is really interesting. So 3 years ago, there was 72 hours of video uploaded to YouTube every minute. 2 years after that, so 1 year ago, there was more than 400 hours on YouTube every minute. The estimate this year is 500 hours every single minute on YouTube. There's masses. It's just gone completely ballistic. And all of these things have gone ballistic now. Masses of new articles online, masses of activity on Instagram, on Snapchat. It's just completely out of control, and it is overwhelming, and you can't keep up with everything that happens. So if you're overwhelmed, don't worry. That's normal as well. The tip is not to try and compete. Don't try and be a step ahead of your kids as far as tech savviness goes, because you're going to lose. You won't do it. Your kids are always going to be ahead. So it's not about having a competition with them or getting into this sort of, I can be smarter than you thing, because that is overwhelming, and it's not effective. It's not going to work. Monitoring our kids. So here's a really important thing. We kind of want to know what our kids are up to online. So many parents have no idea what their kids are doing online. So the question is, do we need to monitor their usage? And I would say yes, to an extent, certainly we do. But how much do we do it, and how do we do it effectively? How do we do it without being creepy? So we don't want to kind of be spying on our kids. We want to do it in an effective way, because if it's not effective, if our kids don't want us to do it, they'll just override whatever we set up, and it won't work. So it's really important to understand how to monitor your kids. It's not about spying, okay? Spying is a really bad word. I mean, you don't want to be spied on. Your kids don't want to be spied on. And there's a lot of, argument backwards and forwards about privacy, and shouldn't my kids, they deserve some privacy online. I don't think there's any such thing as privacy online. And I would rather my child not have a huge amount of privacy online and be alive to complain about it than not be around because I gave them too much privacy. So it's not about spying. It's about monitoring, viewing what your kids are doing, but in front of them and in a way that enhances your relationship with them. Spying is going to not help your relationship with your kids. It's going to create that us and them barrier. So there's quite a lot to that as well, and we talk a lot more about that. So 3 key mistakes that I see that you need to be really careful not to make. One is waiting too long. So waiting till kids are teenagers, they're in high school, and then we go, okay, we better figure out what to do about this stuff. And if you're doing that, it's too long. It's like the ship sailed, you miss the boat. If you wait until your kids are in high school, we just said before, more than half of kids are on social media by the age of 10. It's way too late. Kids can get into so much trouble by then. Most kids that are committing suicide, those 3 kids committing suicide each week, here and thousands doing it in the States and elsewhere all around the world, they're doing it by the time they're 13, 14. It's quite, a lot of kids committing suicide by 14 that have been harassed for years by then. So it's really too late. Now, the thing is that we don't know at what point in time they're going to get in trouble online. This could happen at any time. So we need to be prepared for what's going to happen before it happens. So I was talking before about the response, about having a good response when your kids are online. So it's about knowing how to respond before your kids are in trouble, so that when it happens, you're not on the back foot. You're in a position where you can deal with it. So that's the key there. Ahmed, hello. Welcome. So that's one of the key things. I might just see if you can mute. So you can leave that mute. Awesome. Cool, welcome. So it's about not waiting until it's too late, okay? If you wait until that age, you don't know when your kids are going to get in trouble, and you need to be able to deal with it when it happens. So it might happen when they're 8, it might happen when they're 9, when they're 10, you don't know. So it's about preparing yourself beforehand so that when it happens, you can deal with it effectively, appropriately. Another mistake a lot of parents make is, it won't happen to me, or my kids are okay, or my kids are really responsible, and I've taught my kids what to do online, and that I've told them not to talk to strangers, and they're okay, they're responsible. So most of these kids that get in trouble, the parents are all saying the same thing. Oh, my kids are okay. I'm not saying your kids are naughty at all. I'm not saying they're bad, or it's not that at all. What I am saying is that this can happen to anyone. Innocent kids that are generally well behaved can get themselves in trouble online very, very easily. It's very common. And they don't have to be from bad areas. They don't have to have bad parents. Parents don't have to be neglectful at all. It just can happen to anyone. So this whole, in case you're out there thinking, I think my kids are okay, it's probably not a safe way to think. You need to prepare in any case. The third mistake kids make is the parents make, is not doing enough. They fall short. They try to protect their kids online, which is fantastic. And so they'll tell their kids, don't talk to strangers online. You don't know who's out there, and people may not be who they say they are. And that's fine. That's a good thing to be saying, but it's not enough on its own. So it's about not knowing what it takes. It takes a lot more than, a one-off comment and, don't talk to strangers online isn't going to be enough to stop your kids talking to strangers online, because the kids that do it have been told not to do it. In vast majority, over 90% of parents tell their kids not to talk to strangers online, yet well over 40% of them do it anyway. So there's a bit more to it. There is a lot involved in this, and you don't want to underestimate it. So at this point, then we go, so what is the solution? Is there a solution out there? And I said before, because we don't want to be here for 10 hours today, there is a solution, and this is how I can help you further if you're interested on this topic. So call the solution a Peaceful Digital Parenting Solution, or PDP solution for short. And what I've done is I've just explained this whole problem at what we're facing, and it is a complex problem. It's not a simple thing. So it's a complex problem, and it is kind of a complex solution, but what I've tried to do is make it as simple as possible. So I've simplified it as much as I can, and I've sort of, distilled it into 3 steps to make it as easy as I can. So step 1 is communicate, learn, and collaborate. So the idea of these steps is to get those transformations that we talked about earlier. So it's about going from that fear of what your kids are going to do online to getting that peace of mind that they're okay. It's about going from overwhelm to control and confidence when your kids are online, and from gaining a better relationship, close relationship with your kids. So with these steps, they all link together. So communicate, learn, and collaborate. They all work in together. It doesn't work doing one step and not the other 2, or doing 2 steps and not another one. It doesn't matter which 2 you do. It doesn't work unless they're all done together. So let me explain that a little bit more. So step 1 is communicate more effectively. And communication is so important. So important in keeping kids safe online. And I want to tell a story to illustrate this. So this is a true story of a friend that I have. I don't mention her name, so I make up names for her to protect her privacy. But let's say once upon a time there was a mum with a 12-year-old son. Okay, so we call the mum Sharon, and her son is David. So this mum and son have a really good relationship. She's a fantastic mum, and the kid's pretty well behaved. He's a good boy generally. There's no problems. There's no problems in their relationship. So their son goes to school one day. He's in year 6 at school. Goes to school, and one of his friends has a mobile phone, as you do in year 6. Lots of kids do. And on that phone, he had internet. And during a lunch break, he had managed to get some sort of porn video on his phone. The friend, and thought that was pretty cool. So we called David over and another couple of friends. Said, hey guys, come and check this out. And they started watching this porn video. So now David is a pretty good boy. He's fairly innocent, I guess, at that point. Doesn't really want to be watching this video, but also doesn't see that he has an option to walk away. Because if he walks away, his friends are going to give him a hard time and hassle him. What's your problem, mate? So he watches this video, and then at the end of it, his friend, I think this is a little bit unusual, but this is what happened. His friend said, mate, if you want to check it out later, here's the URL. Here's the site where you can go and check this out. So he puts the website address, the URL to the website where this video is, in David's pocket. David's like, yeah, whatever. Has no intention to look at it again, but whatever. And that was it. So we went home at the end of the day, and tried not to think about it. And Sharon's at home, his mum's at home. Says, hey, Dave, how's the day? Yeah, good, everything's fine. Then Sharon goes to put a wash on, and Dave takes the jacket off, and Mum empties his pockets, put the jacket in the wash, and finds this website. So Mum has a bit of a freak out. Oh my God, what is this? Because from the URL you could tell that it wasn't something that, she could sort of get the gist of what it was all about. So she's freaking out for a few seconds, and she sort of tries to calm herself down. Okay, this is cool, I can handle this. And so, and then she goes up to her son and she says, oh, so hey, David, what's this? And she shows him the URL, the piece of paper. And David just deteriorates. In a very short space of time, he just falls apart. He's like, oh, I don't know, I didn't know what it was, and I didn't want to watch it, but, you know, I couldn't walk away, and it was horrible, and I feel dirty, it's disgusting, and he's burst into tears. He's just turned into a complete mess. And so now Sharon, who's this really cool mum, is looking at her son going, what am I supposed to say? I don't know how to deal with this. And, you know, when she was telling me about this, she said, you know what, I wish that I'd had like a few hours at least to go away and Google, like, what do I do with this? I don't know, find out somehow what am I supposed to do so that she could respond to him in the best way. But, you know, life doesn't happen like that. It happens on the spot. And so she had to respond. So my question is, what do you do? Like, how are you going to respond if something happens like this? Because as I said before, your initial response is key. It's massively important. It's either going to help your relationship with your kids for years to come, or it's going to hinder it. And you need to know how to respond. And what was really unusual about the situation is that Sharon found out that David had seen this video. I think that was really unusual, because normally what would happen is that it wasn't unusual that they were watching this video. That's pretty normal. The unusual thing was that she found out about it. So normally what would happen, and at the age of 12, he's already fairly old to be watching his first porn video, believe it or not. So normally what would happen is your kids will see this stuff and you don't even know they've seen it. They're not going to come running home and say, hey, mum, hey, Dad, guess what I saw today? Right? This is the problem. So 90% of children roughly won't tell their parents. That stat varies a little bit depending on where you see it, but it's the vast majority of kids that won't tell their parents if they get in trouble online. Certainly they're not going to come telling you if they've been watching porn online. But yours can be one of the 10%, okay? You can develop that relationship, so you are one of the 10%, and that's what we're talking about here, what I can help you with. So a lot of that comes down to communication. Within communication, we talk about how to be clear around establish very clear rules around technology that your kids will actually want to follow. Be very clear, open up those lines of communication as much as humanly possible. Too much information is better than not enough. Education is about going from that dictation style of communications, is what I was talking about in my story when I had my son, went through our little fun period, to a more educational style of education. It's about teaching them about accountability, teaching kids to be accountable and responsible online as much as they can at the age they're at, and helping them through that. It's about being prepared, so being ready for when things like that happen, like that story. And if your kid has done something and they're in trouble, it's about being prepared and being ready to deal with it in a way that's going to help for years to come. And about communicating the risks appropriately to your kids of being online. They need to understand the risks. It's not about hiding them from this stuff. It's about teaching resilience. So the next step, so that's a communication step. The next step is to learn what you need to know, and obviously this is really important as well. And I'm going to help explain this with another story. So this is another true story, but happened in a fairly good area. Once upon a time, 3 8-year-old girls. Okay, so these 8-year-old girls were all school friends, normal 8-year-old girls. So like happy, giggly, silly together, lots of play days, and you know, normal 8-year-old girls. They had a play day at one of their homes, and in that girl's bedroom, she had some sort of a device. It was a PC or I don't know, it could have been an iPad, but some sort of electronic device they were using. And on that, they also found a video of some porn. And they thought it looked kind of interesting, and they didn't fully understand it, but they actually thought it looked like fun, and that maybe it would be kind of fun for them to create their own little video, just like the one they saw. So the 3 girls proceeded to strip off and create their own little porn video, and they're pretty tech savvy, of course, because they're 8 years old already. So they recorded themselves doing what they had seen these other people doing on video, and then they posted it online, as they do, because they have social media, because they're 8 years old. So this is the true story, and this didn't happen in a bad area as such. These are just 3 perfectly normal 8-year-old girls who are not trying to be naughty, who are not trying to do the wrong thing, not trying to upset the parents or anything like that. So here's my question. What if this was your daughter? What if you have an 8-year-old daughter? It's not just girls too. What if you have an 8-year-old son? Okay, boys also can do this sort of stuff and get themselves in trouble. You're not immune if you have boys. And what if you could have avoided it from happening? See, I believe that scenario could have been avoided. So how are you going to feel if something like that happens? Now, hopefully, I mean, I don't think that all 8-year-old girls are doing this, but the point is that they can do it. It's easy for them to do it. And again, they're not trying to be naughty. It's just there. There's so much stuff out there, it happens very, very easily. And that's the sort of thing that can affect them, obviously, for years. And the school got involved, of course, in that incident. And there was all sorts of DOCS involvement, Department of Children's Services, Community Services got involved. So some scary stats, things that you need to understand. 90% of children 8 to 16 have viewed porn online while doing their homework, not because they're looking for it, but because they've just seen it, because it's everywhere. It's very, very easy to find it. So a lot of kids are seeing it, whether you want them to or not. And often an innocent click is 1 click away, maybe 2 clicks away from something that's really not so innocent. About 60% of teens have created accounts for apps or social media sites without their parents' knowledge. So your kids are going to do this stuff whether you know it or not. If you let them do it openly, then you may know about it. If you don't let them, then a lot of them are going to do it behind your back. 16% of students, this is a really awful one, 16% of students seriously consider suicide as a result of cyberbullying. About half of that, about 8% attempt it, and of that, generally 1 in 10 actually get it right, unfortunately. So it's way too many. And if the kids when you think the 16% seriously considering suicidal thoughts, there's a whole lot more than that. There's way more than that are depressed that just haven't quite got to the suicidal stage yet. It's affecting way too many kids. So what do you need to learn? How much do you need to learn? Now, here's the point where I know a lot of people sort of go, oh, it's all too hard, and how am I supposed to learn all this? And it kind of does your head in a bit. And I get that. I totally get that. So here's my answer to that, is that you need to learn enough to guide your children in their online world. There are some things you need to learn. You don't need to know as much as your kids know about every site they're on and every app they're using. You don't need to know that. You don't need to be as tech savvy as your kids. But you do need to know enough from a parenting perspective to guide your children safely online. Because at the end of the day, you do what you can. All parents, we do what we can with what we know, right? So the more we know, the more we can do, the more we're in a better position to keep our kids safer. So here's the thing with any topic, this is particularly true with this topic, and I think with any topic, is that there's some stuff that you already know. So 1/6, let's say this is the whole topic. There's 1/6 of the stuff that you already know how to keep your children safe, and that's cool. There's about 2/6 that you know you don't know. This is what you know you don't know, okay? And that's the sort of stuff that you can go and find out. But here, you've got half all the information that there is that you don't know you don't know. This is what you don't know what you don't know, okay? This is a complex topic. There is a lot here. So what I'm covering when if I can help you on this, is the whole thing, covering all of that information, because there is a lot to know. But you can learn it in an easy way, and that's what I'm talking about. So within that learn step, we talk about what is the ideal use of technology. So how do you encourage your kids to use technology in the ideal way if you don't know what that actually looks like? How to manage screen time is a big common one. What age to allow what games and devices, what is appropriate for them. How to block content effectively, so your kids won't just override whatever you try and do. How to monitor what they're doing also effectively. Social media usage, of course, is a massive part of being safe online. Protection of privacy is huge online. And recognising those signs of cyberbullying. The whole thing with cyberbullying is to nip it in the bud early so it doesn't get to that point. It gets out of control. So the final step is to collaborate. So we've gone through communicate, learn, and now we're talking about how to collaborate to actually fix this, to conquer the problem so that your kids can be safe when they're online and can guide themselves safely. So what happens if you collaborate? Let me tell you, this is not about you. You can't win this alone. So you can learn as much as you want to learn, but if you don't work with your children, then you're just wasting your time, of course. So this is all about how to actually collaborate and to share what you've learned with your kids in a way that will help them be safe online. So once you get this right, this is the idea, is that you can all be, look at this picture, they're all online, they're all doing their own thing, and the parents are cool with it because they know that the kids are okay. They know that if something, comes up that the kids shouldn't see, the kids know what to do about it. Or they know that the kids will come to them or talk to them if they have a problem, they can work through it together. So if you don't get this step right, then you're pretty much living with guilt and fear more so. So then you sort of got that fear niggling in the back of your mind every time they're online, like, oh gosh, what are they going to do? And are they going to start talking to someone they shouldn't talk to? And, you know, what's going on there? And you've got the guilt if something does go wrong. Okay, so it's not worth it. It's not worth it. It's a no-brainer. You need to do something about this. We all do as parents. So the strategies that we talk about here are peaceful removal strategy. So I'm going to talk more about what I did and how I've got my son from going from this, you know, violence and craziness when it's time to turn his devices off to actually getting him off them quite easily and peacefully, non-violently. We talk about the whole detox thing, getting off this whole internet addiction so that they can have a healthy balance, creating a healthy balance strategy between being online and offline. The non-creepy monitoring process that will actually enhance your relationship with your kids and not create this us and them mentality. Tips for when you're not there. Often when your kids get in trouble, it's when you're not there. It's when they're at school or they're at the grandparents or a friend's house. So some tips on how to deal with that we'll talk about as well. Peer pressure tactics. As I said, peer pressure is not new. It's huge online, how to deal with that. We talk about actionable steps for cyberbullying. It's important that you nip it in the bud and proactively or actively stop it from getting to a point you don't want it to get to. Mastery of face-to-face social skills are really important. So many parents I know are concerned, I'm concerned, for all kids that need to be able to actually talk with people, have social skills face-to-face. They can't spend their whole life looking at a screen. Where to find quality educational games. There's masses of good games out there. There's a lot of not so good games. So where to find the good ones, heaps of them. How to keep up with technology is huge, of course. It's difficult to do. The rate of change, so we'll talk about that. Protecting kids from online predators. We spent a whole session, as I said, on online predators because that's obviously a big thing. Don't want your children to be involved in that way. And protection from fraud and identity theft is covered as well. So there is a lot involved, but it's covered in the most simple way possible to get you, as I said, the information that you need in the shortest amount of time so that you can keep your kids safe and healthy and balanced online. So what next? So if you want to learn some more, get some more help, here is what you can do. Now the PDP or Peaceful Digital Parenting Solution, this is how it works. There's comprehensive online training. So it all happens online. You can learn it all in your pajamas if you want to, at home or wherever you are. Or you just need a device and an internet connection. Every step that I talked about before, every step in that communicate, learn, collaborate process is covered in full. Don't take any shortcuts. It's all covered in plain English. So the way I explain things is the way I'm explaining things now. So what you see is what you get. I don't use any sort of jargon. It's not fluffy. It's just, I don't believe in sort of fluffing things out. We just get you the information that you need as you need it, when you need it, in the shortest possible time. There are templates and exercises to follow. So this is about implementing what you learn and making it as easy as possible to do that. So sitting and watching a video isn't probably going to help if nothing follows as a result of it. So it comes with more resources to help you with that. It's about reducing your pain. You're going to go through pain that I went through, and the pain I went through was only with internet addiction. I mean, there's, I think, much worse pain. Obviously, you can go through with cyberbullying and social media usage and all sorts of things that happen online. And as I keep saying, it's about saving time, because time is the one thing that we don't have enough of. Parents, I don't know any parents that sit at home twiddling their thumbs wondering what they're going to do with themselves. So it's saving the time to get the information that you absolutely need to keep your kids safe. And it's about getting results. Okay? So what it covers, it includes the 10 online training sessions. They go for around about an hour each. And it goes over 10 weeks. So you don't get bombarded with information and go, well, it's all too hard, it's overwhelming. I don't want to overwhelm you, and technology is already overwhelming enough, so I'm not going to add to that. So it's step by step. I guess you sort of get drip fed so that you can keep up with it as you go and implement as you go. It covers all the topics, as I said, discussed, to reach those end points, to give you that peace of mind, to give you that confidence to guide your kids safely and to improve your relationship with your kids. It's not all just about keeping kids safe online. I mean, obviously the focus is on keeping kids safe online, but it helps you your relationships with your kids as well. All sorts of other parenting stuff. So there are recordings of each session. You get them as a recording, and that means that you can listen to them again and again as you want to. With anything you learn, like you'll probably retain maybe 20% of what I'm saying right now. Our human brains don't work. We just don't comprehend everything the first time. So that's really important that you can listen to them again. You can get more the next time, more the next time. And also if something's not relevant, if you're not at a point yet, like it may be that you're concerned about how to block content, but you're not concerned about social media yet, or maybe you're concerned about some bits more than others, then the bits that are not relevant or so relevant to you at this point, you can always listen to again when they become more relevant. So that's really important as well. As I said, there's practical exercises, templates, so you can implement easily. This is all about implementation, because knowledge, the whole thing where people say knowledge is power, it's really applied knowledge that's power. So we need to really apply what we're learning. You get links to valuable resources. So what I've done is I've basically got the best of the best that I could find online, and I've gone, you know what, here's the best here, here's the best here, there you go, bang. So I'm handing it to you on a silver platter, making it as easy as possible. Here's a really important thing, is Facebook community. Okay, so there is a Facebook group that you get as part of this solution, Peaceful Digital Parenting Solution. And why this Facebook group is so good, it's so valuable. You can ask questions. So I'm in this group, as are other parents. You can ask questions in this group. You can get a lot of support from this group. It is a paid group. It's not actually free to access. And the reason that that's really important is because the quality of people in that group is really high. You get people there who want to help, who genuinely want to help, who are going through similar things that you're going through, have kids of similar ages, who are willing to share their experiences in a way that will help you, and you can share your experiences in a way that will help them. You can ask questions as you go. It's really, really valuable thing to have these like-minded parents. Often when you get like a free forum or free groups like this, all the time I see, without fail, some parents are sort of struggling with their kids. I always see comments from parents going, you're just lazy, or you just need to spend more time with them, and all these sorts of really unconstructive, unhelpful comments. That's just not the real world. The fact is that we're busy and we have jobs to do, and you can't be with your kid 24/7, and you don't want to be, and you don't have to be. So this group is a really, really valuable part of it that you get as part of the of doing the whole training. So what is it about? It's certainly not about me, but it's not about you. It is about giving you peace of mind, but it's not about you. It is about your children, of course, and keeping them safe, but it's more than that as well. It's about your kids having the life skills they need to protect themselves and also their friends. And I want to tell you just really quickly the scenario that when I was in year 3, I think, at school, or 2 maybe, there was a boy in school, I must have been year 2, he was in year 5. His family was they all had this really bad car accident, and the boy who was in year 5 didn't make it through that accident. He died in that accident. And it was horrific at the time. The whole school was just completely rocked by it. His family, he was one of these kids that seemed to have it all. He's probably going to be the school captain next year. And it was just a horrific experience. Now, I didn't know this boy. In fact, I wouldn't have even recognized him. I just knew his name and I knew the scenario, and I was really upset by it. And that's impacted my life since it happened. And that's a long time ago now. So you imagine that all the people that are affected, if some of that, and that was an accident, that was just a road accident, not just that was a road accident. But if your children are friends with someone, or they know someone in their year who commits suicide, that affects them massively. That is going to affect them forevermore. That's something you don't forget. They could have perhaps had, maybe they could have intervened. Maybe they could have stopped it happening. This is a scenario you don't want your kids living with. So it's not even just about your kids, it's about your kids' friends, it's about the community. And one kid commits suicide, it doesn't just affect their family, it affects them, it affects their family, it affects a school, it affects a community, it has a broad effect. Okay, so this is the big picture thing of it. This is about saving lives ultimately. So it's kind of important. This is why I'm so passionate about this. So what's it worth? Now that's a question, to predator-proof your kids. I said we spend a whole session on predator-proofing, to porn-proof your kids. Lots of kids are, watching porn, and they're watching it, from the ages of 8, 9 and 10, and they're getting obsessed with it, and then they're trying out what they've seen on other kids and the horrific stuff happening there. What's it worth for your kid to know that your kids are responsible online, so that they're not going to be affected by cyberbullying, to know that they're okay privacy-wise, to be able to effectively monitor what they're doing, and keep them safe, to give them the social skills of face-to-face as well as behind a screen, for them to be addiction-free, have that healthy balance online, offline, for them to have strong relationships with them, and then to have strong relationships with each other, to have that peace of mind. what is it worth? I think it's worth a lot, and I think it's very hard to put a value on it. I'm valuing it conservatively at $19.97, but that's not what it's going to cost you. The normal price is $9.97. That is what it is online. But there is a special offer today, and which will be for the next 3 days that you can get, where it's only $4.97. So this is a bit of a no-brainer, I'm thinking, at this price. Now, the reason that it is so low, that I'm offering it so low for you today, for the next 3 days, is 3 reasons. Firstly, I don't want money to stand in the way of your children being safe. Okay, I don't think that you should have to be wealthy to keep your children safe online. I think every child has a right to be safe online. Second reason is that the more people in this group, the faster. So the faster we can, the more people that are in the community that I was talking about, the Facebook community, the more valuable it is for everybody. And so I'm really keen for that to create more value for everybody involved. The third reason, this is kind of my little sneaky reason, is that I'm really, really keen to get a testimonial from you. See, I know how good this whole part of the whole solution is. I know that it's hugely valuable. Me saying that is one thing. You saying it is another thing. So I'm really keen to get testimonials from people who have gone through this and who can honestly just describe the experience to other people, because that will help other parents benefit and other kids benefit. And this is about getting the message out there about keeping as many people safe as we can. So that's the reason that it's a special offer for you now. Like I say, normally it's $9.97, but it will be $4.97. I've manually changed it so that you can sign up for that. But that will change on Monday night. So today is Friday. So you've got 3.5 days to get it at that, and then it will go back up to $9.97. Now, as a bonus though, you get recordings of all updated training sessions. So because this is a topic that is changing, of course, all the time, I will be updating sessions from time to time as they become relevant. As there's a lot of changes happening, I'll record new sessions, and you'll get recordings, those new recordings as well. So you don't have to keep paying to get the updated sessions. You pay once and that's it. And you've got forevermore, for as long as I'm recording new sessions, you'll get access to them. You get access to a live monthly Q&A info session, and that's kind of useful too. So if you've got more questions that arise out of doing the 10 weeks of training, then you can ask questions there. Or that they also, there's information that we cover there is whatever's happening also in the last month. So for instance, in the last session, we talked about how to prevent your kids from sharing inappropriate photos of themselves online, because that's a big thing that's happening at the moment. It's causing a lot of problems. So whatever's happening in the last month we talk about there, it's very, very useful. You can join that live, and also it gets recorded. Can't make it live. And there's also a monthly newsletter that you get access to as well. That's also kind of useful. So we share success stories there, what's working for other parents. We talk about, we do reviews on sites and apps, and we talk about sites and apps that are really good ones for your kids to see and that are probably not such good ones for your kids to see. And again, it's just about getting the updated, up-to-date information there as well. So you get all of that. The objections that I find, that I've heard to people doing this is, the first one is, do I really have to know all that? Is this maybe a little bit of overkill? And as I explained before, you've got this 3/6 of information here. This is what you know, 1/6, this is what you know you don't know, and then that's what you don't know you don't know. And do you have to know it all to keep your kids safe? Yeah, you kind of do, because if something goes wrong that's here, you may sort of go, you know what, I know all this information, I know what I know, and I know now what I didn't know, I now know, so now I'm cool. But if you miss out on this bit, then things can go horrendously wrong. So there's a lot to know, and as I say, the idea is to learn it in the easiest way and in the quickest way, which is the next thing. I don't have time to do this. And I mean, if you have time to, I think time is a priority thing. Okay, so the whole reason that I've created this is for you. If you don't have time, this is why this is for you, because this is going to give you all the information you need in the least possible amount of time, because I've spent the time. Okay, so I've already spent 10 times, 20 times more time collating it so that you can get it in less time. Can't afford it. Okay, I think at this price point, it's probably not overly relevant for most people. It sort of comes down to priorities a little bit. You've got to put it in perspective, like other things that you would spend that money on. And I mean, if it's better, it's always better to pay. This is like a prevention. Prevention is better than a cure, always, always. Okay, so if something goes wrong with your kids online and they get bullied or whatever, they turn to drugs, they turn to alcohol, or they need professional help or counselling, that's going to cost you way more than this financially. And then obviously there's the emotional cost that's way more again. Who are you? Just in case you're sort of wondering if I really do know what I'm talking about by this point. Hopefully you're not. But in case you are, I'm pretty passionate. I think you've seen so far on what I do. It's impossible to research a topic and to learn as much as you can about a topic for years and not kind of know what you're talking about. So I do know a lot about this. I've written a book, authored a book that's become a bestseller online, which is pretty exciting. There's a lot of research that's gone into that. So you just can't research a topic for a long time without knowing enough about it to help a lot of other people. But better than me saying who I am, it's better for you to see what other people say. So I got a couple of testimonials here. This is a lady who went through the whole training with me. About halfway through or so the training, she had this to say. So she said, "I really like your style and how you've balanced it with facts and real life stories. Your voice is easy to listen to, and you seem like a very normal mum looking for ways to protect her kids and willing to share what she has learnt." And that's really it in a nutshell. I'm not abnormal in most ways. I'm just a normal busy mum. I just care a lot and I know what it takes, and I've learnt this stuff and I'm willing and keen to share it with you, and I'm really, really passionate about saving lives, about keeping kids safe. Pretty much who I am. The testimony at the end of this training, after the 10th week, this is what Helen had to say. This is really interesting. So the legwork's been done to make it very easy for me to just get on with the job of being the best parent I can. It sounds cheesy, but I now have a lot more practical knowledge and step-by-step instructions on how to implement some common sense rules regarding my children and their safe use of technology. Even the first session gave me practical tools to bond with my kids using technology and not be alienated by it all. So this is something that you'll gain a lot of benefit from session 1. Okay, it's not something that you sort of go, 10 weeks later, when am I going to actually learn something? Or when am I going to make some progress? You make some progress from the start and it just gets better from there. This is the reason that I'm sharing this one really quickly is because this is a doctor, a Belgian doctor. But what's really interesting here is that she hasn't done the entire training. She's only got a 5 minutes of what I teach, and I'm going to actually share that with you in a minute as well. So what she said is that what I've taught, what it's taught me, and I'm definitely going to implement, this is going to save the relationship between me and my 8-year-old son. She has a son same as me, 8-year-old, is such a crucial gift that she gives to the world. We as parents need to know how to speak the language that our children are learning on online games before they will listen to us and connect with us. So Dr. V at this point, we call her Dr. V, had an issue. Her 8-year-old son was pretty obsessed with being online. He was one of these kids that she said, he just wouldn't get out of his pajamas. He would be in his room for ages playing online. It was causing issues with his siblings, with his parents. It was a real problem there. So 5 minutes later with her, she sent this message a couple of weeks after I spoke with her with just this one strategy. She said, "Awesome, you rock. Very cool to rock. I've been having quality time and a better relationship with my children thanks to your advice," she means. So that's kind of cool. So I'm just going to share with you quickly what it was that I shared with her. What I was talking to her about was and I'll go back to, this relates with my story as well, when we had the whole Pokemon drama with my son, what was happening was that if you know anything about Pokemon, and other games are like this, I'm sure, as well, and maybe whether you're Pokemon going, maybe you know a little bit more about how Pokemon is. But with Pokemon, there are thousands of characters. It's very complex. There's like thousands of characters, literally. There are different character types. They have different strengths and weaknesses. They have different regions. There's a whole language to Pokemon. And if you don't know anything about Pokemon, it is like speaking Chinese, like speaking a different language. And so my son, when he was obsessed with Pokemon, was speaking this different language all the time. And at that point in time, I was annoyed. As I said, I was annoyed with Pokemon. I was annoyed with the effect that it was having on our relationship. And I had zero interest in this game. I had zero interest in knowing what he was talking about. So when he was carrying on to me about whatever characters and whatever region they were in and whatever level he was at and where he was up to, my response to him was pretty much, you know what? I have no interest in this. I'm not listening. On a particularly mature day, maybe I'd be like, la, 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 I'm not listening. I'm not interested. okay, I'm really not interested in your stupid game. That was pretty much my response. And so after a while, and my son picked up on that. It was pretty obvious. He's not silly. He understood that I wasn't interested in the game at all. But what I realized afterwards in hindsight, and it seems obvious now, but at the time it wasn't so obvious, was that this thing was really important to him. This thing, as I said, had taken over his life. And I was making very clear that I wasn't interested in this thing that was most important to him and his life. And he translated that in his mind was, well, Mum doesn't care about what I'm doing, so she doesn't care about me. So she doesn't care about what I'm doing or about me. She's not listening to me, so why should I listen to her? Because our kids copy us, right? Kids mimic us. So like it or not, you know, you can take the high moral ground and say, well, he should listen to me because I'm his parent and, you know, he should show me respect. You can say that if you want, but it doesn't work, okay? It doesn't work because you have to lead by example. And I was making it very clear that I had no interest in my son, and he was making it pretty clear that he wasn't interested in what I was saying. So step one for me, when I realized this, was to take an interest in what he was doing, was to look at the game. Well, okay, what is this game? And start having these conversations with him and start listening to him. And, you know, we started having these conversations that would make sense to no one who was not into Pokemon. But it's actually interesting how much had gone into my head. Subconsciously, it must have gone into my head hearing him carrying on about it. And as soon as we started to have these sorts of conversations, I was able to get onto his level because I was otherwise talking to him on one level and he was on another level and it wasn't clashing, it wasn't working. And I had to get on his level because he wasn't going to get on mine. So as soon as I started to get that and communicate with him more on his level, that really started to open up the relationship between us and our lines of communication. So hopefully that's helpful. That's what I shared with Dr. V. It made a huge difference to her. And that's just one tiny strategy that I cover in 10 whole weeks and 10 hours of training. That's one of them. So yeah, imagine if you had the lot. Hopefully that's helpful. Another guy that I spent some time with and talked to a little bit about what I teach, he said, really interesting that what he pointed out, the process isn't just something that can be used for parents and children in a family setting, but it's a philosophy that can be used for the spectrum. So as I said before, this is not just about also keeping your kids safe online. This is about having a better relationship with any parenting issues that you have with your kids. That ability and techniques, strategies on how to move out of my agenda and be more in present time for the person, child, or people I'm with, so that I can actually connect with them. I'd strongly recommend that. That's just a wonderful process that is useful for all of us in this busy world. So this is even not just something that's going to help you with your children. This is going to help with your relationships with everybody. Better relationships equals happier life. So it's really cool. This has actually far-reaching impacts that I actually didn't intend, to be honest. They're just a bonus. So if you sign up for this, or when you sign up for this, I should say, there is a money-back guarantee. So if you listen to the sessions and you go and you decide, you know what, this is all crap, I'm getting nothing out of it, nothing works, and you try stuff with your kids and you get absolutely nowhere, then I will give you all of your money back. No problem with that. Okay. So if there are any questions, you can chat in the chat box. If you're listening to this on a replay and you have any questions, then I don't want to leave any questions unanswered. So just email me. The best email is this one here, admin@childrenandtechnology.com. And I will answer your questions and we can chat. If need be, we can Skype or Zoom. We can have a chat, or we can just email. Make sure that you have all your questions answered in case I haven't made anything, in case I'm not making sense or I haven't made anything clear enough. So the solution is proven. It does work. Okay, it's working now already for people who are doing it. So the only question that I ask is, are you ready now to take some action? And if so, here is what you need to do. So the next steps to register is to click on this link here. You should be able to click on that link. Hopefully that is a hyperlink. I think it is when you're seeing it. That link will take you to a page where you can sign up directly for it. I'll also email this to you so you'll have that link on an email in case you don't get it right now, so that you can sign up there. That's all you have to do. The system is set up online. Your payment can be processed, and then here is what happens. Once you sign up, so you complete your payment on that page there. You look out for an email from me. Just check, it actually comes from Ruth at childrenandtechnology.com. If you don't get that email fairly quickly after you put through your payment, then just check in your spam. It may go into spam. Hopefully it doesn't, because it's clearly not spam, but you never know. It depends on your email provider. So look out for that email. You get the first session pretty much straight away. From that, you'll get an email as well. Within that email, it gives you the link that you need to join our Facebook group. So click on that link and ask to join, and I will accept that as soon as I can. And then it's up to you, just go for it, okay? Then you've got the 10 sessions sent to you. They'll automatically be sent to you each week. You listen to them as you can. I recommend that you schedule a particular time to listen to them, because life gets busy, get that. And if you're sort of waiting till you have spare time, then you're probably not going to have spare time. So it's like going to the gym. You have to schedule the time to watch each session each week, and you can get through it. And as you go, again, we're communicating on Facebook. You can email, you can ask any questions that you have, and we're in touch through the whole process to support you and to make sure that you get those end results. So that's about it from me. There's the link, as I said, to join. I will be sending you an email. Hopefully that's helpful. You can ask any questions that you have. Again, you can email me there, admin@childrentechnology.com, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. So hopefully that's helped. Thank you so much for joining me. Thanks for watching on the replay. I look forward to hearing from you soon. And that's it. Thanks so much. I'll catch you soon.